Welcome to 144,000 teachers, the first fruits unto God and to the land. From the School of Agriculture, the ABC of Education and Survival. The 7-day Sabbath agenda, the repairers of the breach. Studying the research on agriculture and its connection with the biblical calendar. The biblical calendar and Christ's crucifixion. Key number 3. Agriculture connection with the biblical calendar. The biblical calendar crucifixion timeline. Every fact connected with the crucifixion of Christ may be verified without a doubt to demonstrate the validity of the Luni-Solar barley harvest calendation. The biblical calendar and the agricultural season found in Exodus chapter 9. The biblical agricultural season. And the flax, which is a seed, and the barley, which is a grain, were smitten. For the barley, which is also the first fruits, was in the year, and the flax was bold. But the wheat, which is also a grain, and the rye, were not smitten, for they were not grown up. And this is taken from the book of Exodus, chapter 9, verses 31 and 32. The biblical calendar, again looking at the agricultural season in Exodus chapter 9, which corresponds to the spring season. At the time of the seventh plague, which was the plague of hail, the flax and the barley were smitten because both were grown up. Barley is ready in Egypt and Palestine in the spring. The biblical calendar, the month of the year in Exodus chapter 12. The biblical month of the year, the first month. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Taken from Exodus chapter 12, verse 2. And remember, in Hebrew, the word month also means the moon. So this moon shall be unto you the beginning of moons. It shall be the first moon of the year to you. This is how you could read it as well in Hebrew. The biblical calendar and the spring appointed times of Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month or moon at even is the Lord's Passover. And from verse 6 of Leviticus 23, and on the 15th day of the same month or moon is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. In the first day ye shall have a holy convocation, which is the 15th. In the seventh day is an holy convocation, which would be the 21st. The biblical calendar spring appointed time of Leviticus 23. As we continue with verses 10 and 11, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf on the morrow after the Sabbath, which would be Abib 16, or the first month on the 16th. That sheaf was barley, being the first fruit unto the Lord. Continuing with Leviticus 23, verse 16, even unto the morrow after the seventh Sabbath shall he number 50 days, which brings us to the 9th of the third biblical month called Pentecost. The biblical calendar, the first month of the year in Exodus 12. The first month of the year, also called Abib, at that time, the time of the 10th plague of Egypt, was in the spring, corresponding to March-April Julian Gregorian reckoning. The religious year started around that time, and the first month, Abib, means barley is ripe. The biblical calendar and the spring appointed times of Leviticus 23. The appointed time were holy convocation unto the Lord, which were proclaimed in their seasons. And seasons in the Hebrew word number 4150 means feast, solemn assembly, holy convocations, time, and appointed time. The biblical calendar and Christ's crucifixion timeline. According to the four Gospels, Christ died on Abib 14, or first month on the 14th at Passover, rested on the 15th on unleavened bread, resurrected on the 16th at first fruits, and sent the Holy Spirit on the 3rd of month on the 9th, and this was Pentecost, according to the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 1 to 13. The biblical calendar, calculation of the new moon phases. The Jewish feast period began with the month of barley harvest and its paschal moon or moon of Abib, which was the appointed moon of barley harvest. The biblical calendar, fact connected with the crucifixion, and this is based on the Luni-Solar barley harvest calendar. Christ died at the feast of Passover. Christ rested on the feast of unleavened bread and always a 7-day Sabbath. Christ resurrected at first fruit. Christ died in 31 AD. For further study on the year of the 31 AD and the book of Daniel, please see chapter 8 and 9 as reflected in file number 14 and file 15 of numbers 1317.org. The biblical calendar, the Creation Sabbath. When there shall be a restitution of all things which God has spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began, the Creation Sabbath, the day on which Jesus lay at rest in Joseph's tomb, will still be a day of rest and rejoicing. And this is taken from Desire of Ages, page 769. The biblical calendar, Creation Sabbath, the 7-day Sabbath. Christ rested on the Creation Sabbath on Abib 15, or the first month on the 15th, the 7-day Sabbath, which we saw was the feast also of unleavened bread. Christ resurrected the first day of the week, Abib 16, or the first month, at first fruit. Christ fulfilled the Luni-Solar barley harvest Mosaic law calendar. Christ fulfilled the calendar biblically, astronomically, chronologically, and historically. The biblical calendar. Christ rested on the Creation Sabbath. As confirmed by the word of inspiration, the Creation Sabbath is included in the week of the Crucifixion. And we found out that the week of the Crucifixion is based on the Luni-Solar barley harvest Calendation. Therefore, the Creation Sabbath is based on the Luni-Solar barley harvest Calendation. May the Lord bless you and cause his face to shine upon you as you continue to study these wonderful truths. In this particular study, it brought the value of agriculture with the different grains at the time of Israel and even in these days as well. And we have seen how it corresponds to the biblical calendar and specifically the 7-day Sabbath and the feast.